The night sky above the alien bazaar glowed with strange colors. Purple mist floated between the towers, and glowing signs written in unknown symbols flashed in the air. Hundreds of species from across the galaxy gathered in the grand hall, whispering, trading and waiting. Tonight was not an ordinary night. Tonight something rare, something forbidden was going to be sold. The hall was hot and loud, filled with the smell of burning oils and alien perfumes. The crowd pressed forward, their eyes fixed on the stage. At the center stood the auctioneer, a tall creature with golden skin and sharp teeth that glittered under the lights. He raised his long arms to silence the noise. Tonight, the auctioneer's voice echoed, smooth and cruel. We present a prize unlike any other. 2 human sisters, rare, untouched and strong. Gasps filled the room. Whispers followed quickly after. Humans? One alien hissed. Impossible. They are almost extinct beyond their home world. They will sell for a fortune. 2 young women were pushed onto the stage. Their hands were bound in glowing chains, their eyes wide with fear. They wore the torn remains of what looked like explorer uniforms, now dirty and damaged. The younger sister clutched the elder's arm, trying to hide her trembling. The elder tried to stay strong, standing tall though her lip shook. From the front row, a shadow moved. A figure rose slowly. The crowd fell silent at once. It was the warlord. Everyone knew his name, though none dared speak it aloud. He was a ruthless alien general with scars covering his thick body. His armor was black steel and his red eyes glowed with hunger. He had bought slaves before, fighters, workers, even creatures for sport, and none had ever been seen again. Wherever he went, fear followed. The auctioneer bowed deeply toward him. Ah, the mighty warlord honors us. Perhaps you would like to begin the bidding. The warlord smiled, showing sharp teeth. His voice was low and powerful. 100,000 credits. Gasps again. 100,000 was already more than most of the crowd could even imagine. But the warlord could pay it easily. He was wealthy beyond measure, and no one ever challenged his bids. Everyone knew the auction was already decided. The sisters lowered their heads. The younger began to cry silently. It seemed there was no hope. The auctioneer spread his golden arms. 100,000 credits offered by the warlord. Do I hear any other bid? Silence. No one dared. No one wanted to die. Then, from the back of the hall, a voice broke through. I'll bid. The crowd turned, confused. Who would be so foolish? A man stepped forward. He was human. His clothes were old and torn, his boots covered in dust. He carried no weapons, no armor, no jewels. He looked like a beggar who had wandered in by mistake. His face was tired, his beard rough, and his eyes calm, but sharp. The warlord turned slowly, his red gaze locking on the stranger. You, his voice was filled with disbelief and rage. You have nothing. The man did not flinch. He raised his hand higher. 101,000 credits. The crowd burst into laughter. He must be mad. Where could he get such money? He is only a broken human. But the auctioneer froze. He studied the man with narrow eyes. The rules of the bazaar were clear. If a bid was made, it had to be considered. The warlord growled, his armor clanking as he stood. You dare challenge me, beggar? The man did not answer. He simply looked at the sisters on the stage. For a brief second, his expression softened. There was no fear in his eyes, only determination. The auctioneer cleared his throat. The human man has placed a bid of 101,000 credits. Do I hear 102? The warlord slammed his fist against the railing, shaking the platform. 200,000! Gasps again. The crowd trembled. The sisters shrank back in terror. The man lifted his hand once more. 201,000. The bazaar went silent. Even the laughter died. No one believed what they were hearing. How could this man, with nothing but rags on his back, keep outbidding the most dangerous warlord in the galaxy? The auctioneer's golden eyes gleamed with interest. This was becoming a show. The warlord's teeth bared in fury. "Do you mock me, human? Do you wish to die in front of them?" Still, the man remained calm. He did not look at the warlord. He looked only at the sisters. His voice was steady. "I do not mock. I bid." The auctioneer raised his arms high. 201,000 credits, offered by the human stranger. Will the warlord raise the price again? The warlord's red eyes burned brighter, his fury shaking the air. The crowd leaned forward, waiting. The sisters stared at the ragged man, their fear mixing with something else. Hope. The auctioneer's voice thundered. Going once, going twice. And then, the lights in the hall flickered. A shadow spread across the walls. Guards began to move. The warlord's hand reached for his weapon. The auction was about to explode. The crowd inside the bazaar held its breath. The warlord's offer of 200,000 credits had shaken the walls, yet the ragged human still stood calm, his quiet voice. 201,000, cut through the noise like a blade. For a long moment, no one moved. Then laughter broke, sharp and cruel. "Look at him," one alien hissed, pointing with a claw. "He has nothing. He cannot pay," another shouted. "This is madness. He will be killed for this," whispered a third. But the man did not look at them. His eyes stayed fixed on the sisters, still standing on the stage with glowing chains around their wrists. The younger clutched the elder's hand, whispering, "Who is he?" The elder only shook her head. "I don't know." The warlord's voice rolled through the chamber like thunder. "Do you think you can insult me in front of all these eyes, human? Do you think your weak kind can challenge me?" The man finally turned to him. He spoke slowly, each word sharp as stone. "This isn't about you. It's about them." A dangerous silence followed. No one had ever spoken to the warlord like that and survived. His claws tightened around the hilt of his weapon. The auctioneer, however, smiled with sharp teeth. To him this was entertainment. The higher the tension, the better. He raised his golden hands. "The human has bid 201,000 credits. By the law of the bazaar, the bid must be respected unless—" His voice lowered, sly. "Unless he cannot pay." The crowd murmured. Everyone leaned closer. How could a man in rags possibly carry such wealth? The auctioneer's assistants, two tall insectoid guards, stepped forward toward the human. "Proof!" one hissed. "Show your credits or be executed for false bidding." The man reached into his pocket. The crowd laughed, expecting him to pull out dust or nothing at all. But instead, he drew out a small metal chip, no larger than a coin. Its surface glowed faint blue, humming with energy. The auctioneer's eyes widened. He leaned closer, sniffing the air as if he could smell the power in it. Interesting. What is it?" A voice whispered from the crowd. "Not money," another muttered. "Something older, something forbidden." The warlord growled, his eyes narrowing. "That chip, it cannot be real." The man held it up calmly. "This is my bid. It is worth more than any number you can shout." The crowd stirred uneasily. Some leaned back, afraid. Others pressed forward, curious. Whispers flew. "It looks like a key." "Nope, not a key, a weapon." "It's dangerous. Too dangerous." The auctioneer licked his golden lips. "Very well. If what you say is true, your bid is accepted. The sisters are yours. For now." The words hit the warlord like fire. He slammed his armored fist against the railing, cracking the metal. "No!" His voice roared across the chamber. "The sisters are mine. That human lies. His chip is nothing." The auctioneer tilted his head, amused. "Perhaps, mighty warlord, you should bid higher if you doubt him." The warlord's claws clicked against his weapon. His eyes glowed hotter. "I do not waste wealth on lies. Instead, I take what is mine." He motioned with his hand, and suddenly a dozen of his guards began pushing through the crowd toward the ragged man. Gasps and screams erupted. The bazaar erupted into chaos. The sisters stumbled back, terror in their eyes. The man did not move. He stood still, holding the chip between his fingers. His calmness seemed impossible. He looked up at the auctioneer. The law of the bazaar says the winner must not be harmed before payment is given. Or do your laws bend when the warlord snaps his fingers? The auctioneer froze. The crowd hushed. It was true. The law was ancient, older than the bazaar itself. Once a bid was accepted, the winner had the right to claim the prize until proven false. Breaking that law would destroy the auctioneer's reputation forever. The warlord's face twisted with rage. His guard stopped, waiting for his command. The auctioneer lifted his hand slowly. The human speaks truth. Until his bid is proven false, he cannot be touched. A wave of whispers spread across the hall. Shock, disbelief, fear. The man lowered the chip, slipping it back into his pocket. He finally stepped forward, closer to the stage. His boots echoed against the stone floor. The sisters watched him, their eyes wide, unsure whether he was a savior or another kind of danger. The warlord's voice broke the silence, quieter now, but filled with venom. Human, you may have won this round, but you will not leave this hall alive. The man did not answer. He simply placed his hand on the chains that bound the sisters. The glowing links sparked against his skin, but he did not pull back. Instead, he looked at the elder sister and spoke softly. Do not be afraid. You are not property, not tonight. For a heartbeat, hope flickered in her eyes. Then, from the far side of the hall, a loud alarm began to sound. Red lights flashed. Heavy doors locked shut with a deep metallic thud. The bazaar was sealing itself. The auctioneer turned, confused. What is this? The warlord smiled, sharp and cruel. It seems the game is changing. The man tightened his jaw, placing himself between the sisters and the warlord's gaze. He had won the bid, but now survival would cost far more. The alarm echoed through the bazaar like a warning. Drum. Red lights flashed across the curved walls, casting long shadows of claws, horns, and alien faces. Doors sealed with a deep clang, locking everyone inside. The crowd pushed and shouted, fear mixing with curiosity. Something was happening beyond the auctioneer's control. The warlord stood tall, his red eyes glowing brighter than the alarms. He spread his arms wide, his voice booming above the chaos. You see? The bazaar is mine to command. You will not escape, human. His guards fanned out, blocking the exits, heavy weapons flashing with neon energy. The sisters clung to each, other trembling. The elder whispered, He's trapped us. But the ragged man did not flinch. His face stayed calm, though his hand tightened around the pocket where the glowing chip rested. The auctioneer raised his golden arms, shouting to be heard. This is against the law. The bid was made, the bid was accepted. The warlords. Laughter shook the chamber. Law? I am law. No human, no beggar, no weak race can challenge me. The crowd watched, caught between terror and fascination. None dared move, but all leaned closer. It was no longer an auction. It was a battle for pride, for power, for survival. The warlord pointed at the man. Guards, kill him. Bring the sisters to me. The sisters screamed as armored aliens advanced, weapons charged. The man stepped forward, placing himself between the women and the killers. His eyes narrowed. His voice was low but steady. I told you, they are not yours. The first guard raised his weapon, glowing bright with lethal energy. The crowd gasped, waiting for blood. But before the guard could fire, the man pulled the AO chip from his pocket. He pressed his thumb against it. A surge of blue light burst outward, flooding the hall in a wave of energy. The guards stumbled back, their weapons flickering dead. The crowd gasped as glowing chains around the sisters shattered into sparks and fell to the ground. Silence. Every eye locked on the small chip in the man's hand. It pulsed with a deep hum like the heartbeat of something ancient and alive. What is that? Whispered someone in the crowd. It's not currency, hissed another. It's a relic. No, it's worse. It's human tech. Old human. Tech. The warlord's eyes widened, then narrowed again. His voice dripped with fury. Impossible. Your kind was never meant to have such power. The man ignored him. He turned to the sisters. Run when I tell you, don't look back. The elder sister shook her head, voice trembling. We can't leave you. You will. He cut her off, his eyes hard but kind. The warlord snarled. Do you think a toy can save you? He drew his blade, a massive weapon that hissed with plasma fire. I have killed warriors who carried worlds in their pockets. You are nothing. The man finally looked at him. His voice carried no fear. Maybe I am nothing, but even nothing can defy you. He pressed the chip again. This time the hum turned into a roar. A field of crackling blue light exploded outward, throwing guards back into the walls. Weapons fried, sparks showered the floor. Even the warlord's blade sputtered before stabilizing again. The crowd erupted into chaos. Some fled deeper into the hall, others fell to their knees in awe. The auctioneer's golden eyes shone with greed. So it is true, he whispered. The humans still carry the keys. The man shot him a sharp look but said nothing. His body trembled slightly from the energy. It was clear the chip was powerful, but also dangerous to use. The sisters grabbed his arms, pulling him toward the edge of the stage. Please, the younger begged. We have to go now. But the warlord stepped forward through the sparks, his armor scorched but unbroken. His laugh was cruel. So that is your secret. A relic. Human arrogance never dies. You think your toys make you strong, but I will break you with my hands. He raised his massive clawed fist and slammed it down toward the man. The floor cracked, beneath the impact, sending shockwaves through the hall. The sisters stumbled, nearly falling. The man staggered back, clutching the chip. His breathing was heavy now. The power drained him, every use pulling life from his body. He whispered under his breath, almost too quiet to hear. Not yet. I can't burn it all yet. The warlord advanced, step by step, the ground shaking beneath his armored boots. The crowd scattered, leaving only a wide circle of space between them. The air smelled of smoke and lightning. The man slipped the chip back into his pocket, closing his fist. He raised his hands, ready to fight with nothing but flesh and bone. The sisters stared at him, stunned. He had nothing. No armor, no weapon, no army, only will. The warlord sneered. Your relic cannot protect you forever. When it fails, so will you. The man straightened, his tired eyes glowing with quiet fire. Then I'll fight without it. The two figures stood locked in silence, the hall trembling between them. The crowd dared not breathe. And then, the warlord lunged. The warlord's massive body lunged forward, claws slashing the air. The floor shook under his weight as he roared like a beast. The ragged man barely moved in time, rolling to the side. The strike smashed into the stage, cracking the stone and sending shards flying. The crowd screamed and scattered. Some pushed toward the sealed doors, pounding uselessly. Others climbed the walls, desperate to escape. The auction had become a battlefield. The sisters stumbled back, their chains gone but their fear still heavy. The younger cried out, "He'll kill you!" The man stood again, breathing hard. He wiped dust from his face and shouted over his shoulder, "Stay behind me." The warlord grinned, his teeth sharp and glowing under the red light. You cannot run, human. You cannot hide. I will tear you apart, piece by piece. He swung his blade again, a wide arc that would have cut the man in two, but the man ducked low, grabbed a broken piece of chain from the ground and snapped it around the warlord's arm. Sparks flew as the glowing chain wrapped tight. For 1 second, the warlord was slowed. The man used that moment to grab the sisters' hands and pull them toward the edge of the hall. "Move!" he shouted. The crowd parted, terrified to be caught between them. The sisters ran, their hearts pounding, pulled by the man's unshakable grip. Behind them, the warlord ripped the chain free with a roar. His voice thundered, "No one escapes me! No one defies me!" Guards leapt into action, raising their weapons. Energy blasts lit the air, searing the walls. The man shoved the sisters down behind a fallen stall as plasma bolts streaked overhead. He snatched a piece of metal pipe from the ground, primitive compared to the glowing guns, but he held it like a weapon. He looked at the sisters. His voice was low, urgent. "When I say run, don't stop, understand?" The elder sister nodded, pulling her younger sibling close. Fear burned in their eyes, but also trust. The man leapt from cover, swinging the pipe at the nearest guard. The blow cracked against the alien's helmet, sending him sprawling. The man grabbed the guard's weapon before it hit the ground and fired. A blast of blue energy streaked out, hitting another guard square in the chest. The crowd roared, some cheering, some crying out in panic. The bazaar had turned into a storm. The man turned back. "Run, now!" The sisters sprinted through the chaos, weaving between overturned stalls and broken tables. The man stayed close behind, firing wildly, to keep the guards back. The warlord's voice rose above it all, a furious promise. "You cannot run from me. I will drag your bones through the stars." The sisters reached a corridor that led deeper into the bazaar. The man herded them inside, the door sliding shut behind them. For a brief moment, silence fell. Only there. Ragged breaths filled the narrow passage. The younger sister clung to his arm. "Why are you helping us? You don't even know us." The man's face was hard, but his eyes softened. "Because no one deserves to be sold." Before they could speak again, the corridor shook. The wall behind them buckled, then tore apart as the warlord smashed through, his glowing blade lighting the shadows. The sisters screamed. The man shoved them forward. "Go! Don't stop!" They ran through the twisting corridor, the warlord smashing through walls behind them like an unstoppable storm. Sparks rained down, alarms blared, the floor split beneath their feet. At last they burst into a wide chamber filled with cages and strange alien beasts. The creatures snarled and rattled their bars, their glowing eyes tracking the fleeing humans. The sisters froze in terror. One cage door had been broken in the chaos. A massive beast stepped out, its body covered in thick scales, its jaw filled with jagged teeth. It stood taller than the warlord himself, and its roar shook the chamber. The warlord stopped, his eyes gleaming with cruel delight. "Run, little human. Run into the jaws of death." The man tightened his grip on the stolen weapon, but the power cell blinked red, empty. He tossed it aside and raised his fists. Sweat ran down his face, dust clung to his hair, but his eyes burned with fire. He stood between the sisters and the beast, ready to face it with nothing but flesh and will. The elder sister whispered, "He can't fight that, not alone." The younger gripped her arm. "But he's trying. For us." The beast roared again, charging forward. The warlord laughed, certain of victory, but the man bent low, snatching a sparking power coil from the floor. Electricity danced across his hands as he turned to face the monster. "Stay behind me," he said again, his voice calm, steady, unbroken. The chamber trembled as beast and man collided. Sparks, roars, and shouts filled the air. The sisters covered their ears, tears streaming down their faces. They wanted to look away, but they couldn't. This stranger, this ragged human, was fighting with nothing but scraps, risking everything for them, and for the first time the warlord's smile began to fade. The beast charged, its heavy body shaking the chamber floor. Its eyes glowed yellow, and its jaws snapped open wide, ready to crush bone and steel alike. The sisters screamed and stumbled back, their hands clutching each other tightly. The ragged man didn't move away. Instead, he ran forward. He thrust the sparking coil straight into the beast's mouth. Electricity exploded across its scaled body. The monster howled, shaking its head violently, throwing sparks in every direction. The coil shattered in the man's grip, the shock blasting him across the chamber. He hit the ground hard, rolling, to a stop. The sisters cried out. The elder tried to rush to him, but he shouted through the pain, "Stay back!" His voice, though weak, carried steel. The beast staggered, smoke rising from its jaw, but it was not dead. It turned, enraged, its glowing eyes now locked fully on the man. The warlord laughed from behind the broken cages. His deep voice boomed. Yes, fight him. Tear him apart. The man pushed himself to his feet, clutching his ribs. His body trembled, but his eyes never wavered. He looked around the chamber quickly, searching. His gaze fell on the cages, on the scraps of broken metal, on the fallen guards lying unconscious. He had nothing, but he always found something. As the beast roared and lunged again, the man darted sideways, grabbing a jagged metal rod from the floor. He swung it upward with every ounce of strength. The rod scraped across the beast's scaled face, sparks flying, leaving a deep scratch. The creature shrieked, furious. Its tail whipped across the chamber, striking a cage door. The door tore free and clanged against the wall, barely missing the sisters. The younger sister fell to her knees, covering her head. The elder pulled her up, whispering desperately, "Don't stop. Don't look. He's fighting for us. We can't waste it." The man circled, keeping the beast's attention. Every movement was measured, every breath heavy. He struck again, this time jabbing the rod into the creature's leg joint. The beast howled, staggering for a moment. The crowd of aliens watching from the edges gasped and murmured. Some even cheered, caught in the madness of the fight. The warlord's red eyes narrowed. He had expected the beast to crush the human, quickly. But now something inside him burned. Rage, yes, but also a sliver of unease. The beast came down with both front claws, smashing stone and shaking the chamber. The man dove aside, rolling through dust and rubble. His body screamed with pain, but he forced himself up again. He turned to the sisters, shouting, "Help me!" The elder froze for a heartbeat, then nodded. She grabbed a fallen guard's weapon, though her hands shook. She aimed clumsily and fired. The blast struck the beast's side, burning a patch of scale. The creature bellowed and turned toward her. "No!" the man cried. He sprinted, swinging his rod hard against the beast's face. The blow pulled its gaze back to him. The younger sister found a piece of chain on the floor. Though her arms trembled, she hurled it with all her strength. The chain wrapped around the beast's horn, tangling for a moment. It wasn't much, but it gave the man one more chance. He leapt forward, climbing up the beast's scaled arm like a soldier storming a fortress. The crowd gasped as he scrambled higher, clinging on despite the monster thrashing and shaking. Sparks rained from broken lights above. The warlord roared in fury. "No, he is nothing. He cannot win." The man reached the beast's head, his body barely hanging on. With a final cry, he drove the metal rod deep into the creature's glowing eye. The chamber shook with the beast's scream, its body thrashing wildly. It slammed against the walls, smashing cages and tearing the floor apart. The sisters screamed as dust and stone rained down. They crouched together, holding each other, praying the man would survive. Finally, with one last terrible roar, the beast collapsed. Its body crashed against the stone, shaking the chamber like an earthquake. Silence followed, broken only by the hiss of dying sparks. The man rolled off the beast's head, landing hard on the ground. He lay still for a moment, his chest heaving, his body bloody and bruised. Slowly, he pushed himself up, swaying but unbroken. The sisters ran to him. The elder grabbed his arm, helping him stand. The younger's eyes were wide with awe. You killed it. You killed a monster." He looked at them with tired eyes, a faint, almost broken smile on his face. "No, we killed it." The crowd erupted in noise, some cheering wildly, others shouting in fear. The bazaar was no longer an auction. It was a legend unfolding. The warlord stepped forward, his smile gone, his face twisted with pure rage. His voice was low and dangerous. "You think this makes you strong? You think killing a beast makes you free?" He drew his plasma blade again, its red fire burning brighter than ever. "Now, human, you face me." The man steadied himself, bruised but unbowed. He tightened his fists, standing between the sisters and the warlord once more. The elder whispered, her voice shaking but firm. "He's still standing." The younger added softly, "And he's not afraid." The warlord raised his blade high, his fury filling the chamber. The real fight was about to begin. The beast's body lay still, smoke curling from its wounds. The chamber was silent, broken only by the ragged breathing of the man and the sisters. Dust floated in the air like falling ash. Then came the sound, of steel against stone. The warlord stepped forward, his armor glowing red under the flickering lights. His plasma blade hissed with burning fire, casting shadows across his scarred face. The crowd, still pressed against the walls, whispered in fear, "He killed the beast." But he cannot kill the warlord. No one can. The sisters clung to each other, their eyes on the stranger who had stood for them again and again. He was bruised, blood streaking his cheek, clothes torn, body shaking with exhaustion. Yet his back was straight and his eyes, though tired, were steady. The warlord pointed the blade at him. "You have embarrassed me. You have challenged me in front of all. For that I will not let you die quickly. I will make your screams echo in this hall." The man raised his fists. He had no weapon now, no glowing relic in his hand, only his bare strength. "Then try." The crowd gasped at his words. The warlord roared and swung his blade in a wide arc. The man dove low, rolling across the cracked floor. The blade cut through stone where he had stood, leaving molten lines glowing in the ground. The sisters cried out, but the man was already moving. He snatched a broken chain from the floor, swinging it with speed. He lashed it around the warlord's arm, pulling hard. The plasma blade wavered for a moment, but the warlord's strength tore the chain, free with ease. He backhanded the man across the chamber. The human crashed into a broken cage, coughing blood. The sisters screamed his name, though they didn't even know it. The warlord stalked forward. Weak. Always weak. He raised his blade high to finish it, but the man pulled himself up, slow but stubborn. He spat blood to the side and met the warlord's glowing eyes. "You're wrong. Weak doesn't fight monsters. Weak doesn't stand when everything says fall." With a sudden burst, he grabbed the jagged cage bar and swung it upward. Sparks flew as it struck the warlord's face, scraping across his metal jaw. The warlord snarled, stumbling a step back. The crowd gasped again. For the first time, blood trickled from the warlord's mouth. The warlord's fury boiled. He roared, charging forward. His blade cut across the air, but the man twisted, ducked, and countered with brutal, desperate strikes. He fought like a man with nothing to lose, wild, clever, unbroken. The sisters could barely breathe as they watched. Every moment felt like the last. The warlord slammed the man against the wall, pinning him with raw strength. The plasma blade rose, glowing inches from his throat. The warlord hissed, "Now, you end." The man's hand darted into his pocket. The glowing chip was there, humming faintly. He pressed it and a surge of energy rippled outward. The blade flickered, sputtering for just one heartbeat. That was all he needed. The man slammed his forehead into the warlord's face. The crack echoed. Both staggered back, blood mixing with sweat. The crowd erupted, some chanting, others screaming. The auctioneer leaned forward with gleaming eyes. Yes. A battle worth remembering." The warlord steadied himself, shaking off the strike. His eyes burned brighter than ever. "You cannot win, human. That relic drains you. Soon it will burn you out. Then you are nothing." The man tightened his fist around the chip but did not press it again. His voice was low, almost a whisper, but strong enough for all to hear. "I don't need it to beat you." He dropped the chip back into his pocket and raised his fists once more. His body was broken, but his will burned hotter than fire. The warlord growled, lowering his blade, choosing instead to fight with his hands. "Then I will break you with my strength." The two clashed again, fist against claw, bone against steel. The chamber shook with each strike. The man ducked, countered, slammed elbows, kicked knees, using every dirty trick, every scrap of human instinct. He was smaller, weaker, slower, but he refused to fall. The sisters shouted encouragement, their voices shaking the chamber. "Don't stop! Fight him!" The warlord roared, driving his claw into the man's side. Blood sprayed and the crowd gasped. The man staggered, pain flashing across his face. But, instead of falling, he grabbed the warlord's wrist, twisted hard, and drove his knee into the alien's chest. The warlord grunted, stumbling back a step. The man's voice broke through the chaos, hoarse but defiant. "You can break my body but not my will." The warlord's eyes narrowed. For the first time, doubt flickered there. The man, bloody and exhausted, raised his fists again. He was swaying, but still standing, still ready. The chamber trembled. With silence, everyone watched, waiting for the final strike. And then, the warlord lunged with a roar that shook the walls. The man met him head-on. The chamber shook as the warlord lunged, his roar splitting the air. His armored fists came down like hammers, each strike strong enough to break stone. The man dodged, barely keeping ahead, his body screaming in pain. Blood streaked his face and his ribs ached with every breath, but still he stood. Still he fought. The sisters watched with wide eyes pressed against the wall. Every blow, every clash made their hearts race. The younger whispered, "He can't last. He's too hurt." The elder shook her head, clutching her hand tightly. "No, he won't stop. Not until it's over." The warlord swung again, his claws tearing through the air. The man ducked low, slamming his fist into the warlord's ribs. The alien grunted but laughed, shoving him back with monstrous strength. "You are broken already," the warlord growled. "One more strike and you will be dust beneath my feet." The man staggered, spitting blood. His voice was hoarse but steady. "Maybe, but even dust can choke a monster." The crowd gasped. Some shouted for the warlord to finish it. Others, strangely, cheered for the ragged human who refused to fall. The warlord roared and charged, his blade lit again, fire and fury. He swung, a killing strike meant to end it all. The man moved at the last second, throwing himself forward inside the arc of the blade. The plasma hissed past his back, scorching his torn clothes. He slammed his elbow into the warlord's throat. The alien stumbled, choking for a heartbeat. The man used the moment, driving his fist again and again into the warlord's face. Blood splattered across the stone. His knuckles cracked, but he didn't stop. Each strike carried the weight of his will, of his defiance, of his promise to protect the sisters. The warlord roared, shoving him away with a blast of strength. The man crashed into the wall, nearly falling, his vision blurred. His body wanted to collapse. But through the haze, he saw the sisters, their faces pale, but their eyes locked on him, full of fear, but also hope. Hope in him. And he remembered why he stood. Slowly, painfully, he pulled the glowing chip from his pocket. It hummed faintly, weak now, its light flickering like a dying star. He stared at it, then at the warlord, who was advancing again. The warlord sneered. "That relic is fading. It will take your life before it takes mine." The man smiled faintly, broken but unbowed. "Then I'll spend what's left of me." Press the chip one last time. A surge of blue fire erupted, flooding the chamber. The air burned with light, electricity dancing across walls and armor. The warlord staggered, his blade sputtering, his armor locking in spasms. Sparks rained from him as the chip screamed in the man's hand. The man roared, using the last of his strength. He slammed his fist, glowing with the chip's energy, straight into the warlord's chest. The chamber exploded with light. The warlord flew backward, crashing through the stone wall. The impact shook the entire hall. Smoke and dust filled the air, swallowing his body from sight. The man dropped to his knees. The chip shattered to pieces in his palm. His chest heaved, his arms trembled. He was barely conscious, but still alive. The crowd was silent. Every alien, every creature, every eye stared at the ragged human who had done the impossible. The sisters ran to him, falling to their knees. The elder wrapped her arm around him, holding him upright. "You're alive," she whispered, her voice breaking. The younger wiped tears from her face. You saved us. Why?" The man's eyes opened slowly. His voice was weak, almost fading. "Because no one should be owned. Not by him, not by anyone." For a moment the chamber felt still, almost peaceful. Then, the rubble shifted. The warlord's growl echoed through the dust. Slowly, impossibly, he rose again. His armor was broken, his blade gone, but his body still burned with rage. His red eyes glowed like fire. The crowd gasped in terror. The sisters clung to the man, fear flooding their faces. The warlord's voice was a low snarl. This is not finished. The man forced himself to stand, leaning on the elder sister's arm. He was broken, exhausted, weaponless, but still his eyes met the warlord's without fear. Then come, he whispered. I'll fight until I can't breathe. The warlord stared at him for a long, burning moment. Then, with a guttural roar, he turned and stormed from the chamber, his guards following like shadows. The crowd erupted into chaos again, some chanting the human's name, others fleeing in fear of what would come next. The auctioneer watched from above, his golden eyes gleaming. He whispered to himself, "A legend is born tonight, but legends make dangerous enemies." The man collapsed to his knees once more. The sisters caught him, holding him between them. The elder looked into his eyes. "You can't fight him, forever. He'll come again." The man gave a faint smile. "Then we'll be ready." The younger's voice trembled. "We?" He looked at them both, his eyes tired but alive. "You're free now, but freedom is never safe. If you'll have me, we fight together." The sisters glanced at each other, then nodded. For the first time, they weren't just victims. They were survivors, partners in a fight that was only beginning. Above them, the alarms finally stopped. The red lights faded. The bazaar was broken, scarred, and silent. But deep in the shadows, whispers spread. Whispers of the human who had nothing, yet stood against a warlord and won. The story was just beginning.